Welcome to True House Stories. I am Lenny Fontana, coming out of York, New York City. The only place where you could have danced day and night at one time and danced the night away or dance for a few days straight and get food whatever you want, whenever you want. But we're going to go a little back in time to someone that is what I call an architect or an engineer to our scene. And it goes back to pre-disco, because he's going to tell you himself. It goes back to pre-disco, post-disco, disco death, R&B music. Guys responsible for mixing so many great records, sang on a record, DJed at some of the best clubs, traveled the world, the whole deal. Let me introduce him. Let me bring him up. The one and only Hippie Torrales. God bless this man, and we got him. We've been waiting to get him on, and he's here for you now. And I wanted to say, thank you, Hippie. Welcome to True House Stories.
Well, thank you for having me.
I hope you're well. Before we even ask the first question, I'm going to ask you to tell everybody, how's life been for you with this complete change of COVID? Since we went into lockdown and we're coming back out, you could give people a bird's eye view of how things are going.
Yeah, well, I'm living in Columbia, South Carolina now. I actually lucked out because when COVID hit, my job, I work at our library here at North Main, Richland Library here in Columbia, and we were lucky. Our library kept us on salary, even though everything was closed down from March till about September of last year. So we worked from home. We were lucky in that way. But I went through the process. I caught COVID. My girlfriend caught COVID, my mother, my son, everybody in our family caught COVID. My girlfriend still has long-term COVID. She still has it. She's still at home from September of last year till now. It's hard for her. She still has to breathe with oxygen and everything. So she's, making it. We're trying to make it slowly but surely, but she's still on it. Everybody else, lucky, my mother ended up in the hospital and everything, and everybody ended up, coming out okay. But we went through it. We definitely went through it. Now we're in a better place.
Hippie, people saying, can Hippie move closer to the microphone? I know you're on the laptop.
Sure.
Yeah, and just project a little bit more, because they're saying they can't hear you.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Maybe that's better. I'll even speak up.
Yeah, that's it. That's fine. Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt you, because people want to hear you. They're asking, saying, can he please move closer? Thank you, everybody, for letting us know. First of all, I love the hat. As we know, Hippie is always he's a suave dresser, and guapo, as we all know, he's a handsome guy.
As you can see, I grew my beard during COVID.
He even went lumberjack. Went real cool. He looked Cubano, but he's not Cubano. Okay. So Hippie, thank God. Just my question is, when you said long-term COVID, what is she dealing with that? When you say long-term,
right? Well, she can't exert herself because she's on oxygen. She'll need oxygen. If she's doing something for like 5-10 minutes. If she exerts herself, she runs out of air. So then she has to put on the oxygen to breathe. So that's long-term COVID, and she's still, her body aches. And it's hard for her to do things. So, it's a real thing. It really affects your whole, and it affects you every way. I mean, physically, mentally, it drains her. You know what I mean? So we're slowly but surely getting through it, but it's a process. It's certainly not, an easy step.
Okay. Well, we wish you the best, of course.
Thank you.
We'll get into some of the questions later of how you ended up down there. Let's get on that timeline. All right, everyone, here we go. Lenny Fontana doesn't play around. We start with the first question, and I'm going to have him paint the picture. The only way we can is let him do this. So, how does music find the young hippie, the kid? Before he went out dancing and everything, that young kid, young, very young,
Yep, I know. Well, music, I wasn't really into music till I would say I was probably 9 years old. And my dad said, you know what? I'm going to have you and your sisters each pick out one song to buy. He took us to two guys in Jersey City. All right. He said, you each get one song to pick. So I was 9. I didn't really listen to radio, but I let them play some music. And I said, okay, I want that one, which was Marvin Gaye's Heard It Through the Grapevine. That was my first song that I bought ever. My sister, Lisi, which was a year behind me, gets the song Dizzy. I don't know if you know the song Dizzy. Dizzy, my head is spinning. It was a hit from that time. She picked that song. And then my sister after her, which was 2 years younger than her, picked Sugar Sugar by the Archies. Because
Okay.
of course, they were huge.
Right.
That was my intro to music. From that point on, I started getting interested in music. But as you can see, my taste was towards the R&B. Like I didn't pick a rock song. I didn't pick anything else. It was straight to R&B. That was my first taste of music. And from there, I started, listening to music, not on radio, because I wasn't a real radio person, but we used to have what called back then sets. So what a set was a house party. You know what I mean? Basically. And even though we were young, 9, 10 years old, our kids would have house parties, basically, and invite everybody on the weekend to come over. And I got exposed to, James Brown and, all the classic ballads, Body and Soul, Natural High, all that kind of stuff. That was what I was introduced. At that point in school, they put me in charge of the auditorium. So in our auditorium, I was in charge of the phonograph, which was the turntable in the auditorium. I was in charge of the projector. So if we ever had movies, I was in charge of the stage, okay, the lighting on the stage, the mic setup on the stage. So that introduced me to the technical side of doing that kind of stuff, basically, pretty much all the technical stuff. And then around that age, a friend of ours, he had a basement, and we made a club there. It was called our place, basically the club. And then we would go there and hang out every weekend. We would hang out, and they put me in charge of buying music. So I ended up running the turntable in our club and buying the music. I would get like $5 a week and go buy, James Brown or whatever else I wanted to buy, and that's what we would play in our little thing. I did that for a while. That's what we did, and then graduation time came around. I was graduating from the 8th grade. So once we graduated, we had a club in Jersey City called El Centro. And El Centro was the club. It was like the club downtown Jersey City, that only club that really was a club. They played club music and everything.
Official club, like official.
Yeah, exactly, a real club. And it wasn't after hours. So it wasn't like they sold liquor. It was more like they were open till 4 or 5 in the morning, but they let everybody in. And what they would do is graduation day, like most clubs do now, they would let in the younger people to enjoy graduation day. So the first time I ever went to the club was El Centro. I went there, and I never heard completely mixed music because radio didn't play mixed songs back then. They just played a song, and then, they would do a commercial, play another song. It wasn't mixing like we know it. So I went to the club, and all I hear is mixes. Basically, the DJ is mixing. I'm like, wow, how is he doing this? I didn't even know how it was working, So my friend said, listen, I know the DJ. His name was Angel. He said, I can introduce you to him. So I said, all right, take me. He took me to the DJ booth. I met Angel. He showed me, listen, this is the 2 turntables we have here. This is our mixer. And basically what I do is, bring this one up, just bring this one down. Here's a cue. I didn't even know what the cue was.
Yeah, why would you?
Exactly. So that was my intro. So from there, we moved from Jersey City to Newark.
Ooh.
And in Newark, they had mobile setups around that would come to our neighborhoods and play out in the streets. I didn't know that existed until then. So one of my mobile setups that came by was my partner at the time, Nelson Buchinieves, used to have his own system. So he would come out, set it up in the street, play music.
Right.
So me wanting to, get into it, I would bother him every time I saw him. Listen, let me play some music. Let me play some music. He was like, get away, kid, man. You just bother me. But I just was persistent. I was persistent and persistent. And he finally said, you know what? Okay, I'll let you play. So I played some records, you know what I mean? And luckily for me, our little gang was pretty big. Like we had my sisters and we had my friends and everything. So we had a lot of people. We had like 40, 50 people that used to hang with us in our little thing. So of course I'm playing. I'm their boy, they're like, yeah, they're enjoying it. So Butchie says, well, this kid's got a following. So let's, maybe I'll take him on. So he took me on. And then we started doing the Branch Brook roller skating ring in Newark. So this was 73. He had been doing it for a year before that, and he started the disco there. He started doing that disco parties on the weekend there. So he brought me in 73, and we would go there every weekend, and we would play the music for the roller skaters. And it was a summer and winter thing, because what they would do is it's ice in the winter and then roller skating in the summer in the same thing they had. So I started building a crowd there, because I would play there and people would be like, oh, it's hippie. And it was actually an elevated DJ booth. So it sort of gave you that persona, you know what I mean? Like a DJ and stuff. And that's how we started. I started there. And then from there, we started doing a lot of mobile gigs. And we ended up going with Mark IV Disco, which was another disco group in Newark. Now, Mark IV Disco was pretty, they were pretty popular. They had a big following. So they invited us to do a show with them at the Ebony Manor. They used to rent the Ebony Manor, which was actually like a big ballroom kind of thing. And it had 3 different rooms. So the first time we did it, they were in the big room. We were in the second ballroom. And then after that, they invited us and Gentlemen of Leisure Disco, which was called Gold. That was their logo, Gold. And that Stan Williams was one of the DJs for them. Okay.
Stan Williams.
Russia now. Stan Williams. Yeah, that's Stan Williams. Yeah, exactly.
That guy, the real Stan Williams we know from Russia.
Yeah, exactly.
Where are you, Stan? Where's Stan?
DJ with Gold, Gentlemen of Gold Production. And all of us got to play at the Ebony Manor together.
Yeah. Now, I remember when Stan worked for Richard Long. That's later. But see, we talked about that. It's crazy. But I had Stan. I'm going, it can't be the Stan Williams that I know.
Yeah, it is.
Stan Williams from Russia.
So then from there, we started doing a lot of mobile jobs, and then we went to open a club. And what happened was Al Murphy and Larry Patterson used to have a club called La Jocks, and it was like a premier like after hours club. It was like everybody would go to La Jocks. Beautiful, beautiful club. I mean, you walked in, they had a kitchen on the first floor, and Al Murphy would make hors d'oeuvres and everything and all kinds of stuff. And he had a sofa set up. And then you go to the floor, the dance floor was after that. And upstairs there was a balcony, and the DJ booth was up in the balcony, and you can sit up there and you can look down on the dance floor. I mean, it was a great club. It was a perfect club. So they had left it. So we moved in there and did that for a while. Then after doing that, the lease was up, and it was like, okay, so maybe we should open our own place. So then Butchie and I found Doc's, which was on 776 Broad Street. And that's where I started, my residency was at Doc's. And that's how I started music from that point up to there. You know what I mean? To my first actual club. That was it. So
at that time, before we even go any further, at that time, when you say La Jocks with Al Murphy and Larry Patterson, may he rest in peace as well. Whose sound systems were they at that time? Were these things that just they put together, or was it Richard Long or one of these people, Alex Rosner? Who was the one, the architect behind that for Jersey?
During those times, the early times, they would usually put them together themselves. It wasn't until I worked at Abe's that I actually got into a Richard Long sound system.
Okay, so we'll get there.
Before that, before I got at Abe's, I actually played at the Limelight in New York, which was Alex Rosner set up.
Right.
Alex Rosner sound. And that was the original one on 9th Street and 7th Avenue.
Correct.
Which is, it was a club. It had a sunken in floor, and then it had Tiffany lights on top. It was a really gorgeous club.
Nikki told me that too. Nikki Ciano said he explained that, because again, I wasn't old enough to go there, but he told me you had a seat. They had a Tiffany glass top.
Yep.
And he talked about David Rodriguez playing, or Michael Capello. Capello playing there.
Exactly. And the jock there when I met him was George, and George used to play. We used to go Tuesday nights, and George used to play. And he did one of those trickery things. Look, I got to go to the bathroom, because he knew I like music and DJ. I got to the bathroom, so if the record dies, can you change it? You know what I mean? So he went, took his time, and then I switched the song to the next song, pretty much. And he was like, yeah, you can do this. He said, listen, I got another job offer. So would you want to?
Yeah, I got another job. You take this job.
Yeah, exactly what he told me. He said, listen, I got another job offer. It pays more. You want to do this on Tuesdays? I said, sure, why not? So he talked to the owner and said, yeah, let's do it. So then
New York City, here we come.
And that was the first actual sound system before Abe's that I would work on was the Rosner sound system in New York.
Thorens Turntables. Explain to everybody. At Thorens Turntables.
Thorens Turntable. They had a Bozak at the Rosner Club at that time. And the speakers, I'm not sure if he had them. I don't know if they were custom or not. I don't remember because I never really took notice of the speakers because it was sort of like sunken in, and then the bass, because the floor was sunken, I think the bass was, around the floor, on the outside of the sunken floor, so you really couldn't see it. In other words, it was built in, so it was like you can stand on top of it, but you can't really see what the speakers were. Understand? On the bass, and then the other ones were hung, basically the horns and the. I
think those that remember, I've always heard. Because he also did Les Jardins, Alex Rosner. I think they used voice of theater a lot of the places he was using in those days.
Okay.
The voice of theater sound. It sounds like the cabinets that are hanging and the bottom cabinets. Because even Ralphie D at Odyssey 2001 had the voice of theater. His were on the dance floor, but in Manhattan, they hung them.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, in Manhattan, they hung them. Because Les Jardins pictures I saw with Bobby DJ, you could see it's that voice of theater, those cabinets.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and it was nice. I mean, it's funny because Thorns are not easy to work with.
Oh, really? Tell everybody what the experience is like playing all night on Thorens TD-125 Mark II.
Yeah, and the funny thing is that we used to bang, or what some DJs call slip cue.
Slip cue.
And it wasn't easy with Thorns. You had to know how to raise it at the right level and just drop it. I used to bring it up like just a bit, like underneath, just enough to my thumb to get a little bit under it, just to not stop it from, and still let the turntable spin underneath. And then you got to drop it, and it's still sometimes you're going to hear that wah before it picks up. You know what I'm saying? It worked. It worked back then. It worked. We were fine with it. And talking about that, before I even, once I left, how do you call it? El Centro, we started going to New York when me and Butch first got together, and we would go to Hollywood. And Richie Kaczor was the DJ at Hollywood. And that's where I really learned how the slip cue and everything.
Now explain Richie. Now this is where people don't understand Richie Kaczor, Studio Richie, but this is the Richie that everybody talks about, Hollywood's.
Right, exactly.
What was he like there? Because I know you guys were all there soaking him in.
He did slip cue. Basically, he just did bangs, that's it. But he was on the money. I mean, Richie was like, him and Flamengo Joe, which was a Jersey guy, were the best bangers or the best, slip cuers at that time. I mean, they were like bang on the money, bang, bang. And it would be right on time, every beat. And that's how I learned about felts, because it was Richie Kaczor. I went to the DJ booth. I was like, I got to see what's going on. And
now,
he said, yeah, this is felts. And mind you, they had the mixer, because they had the turntable and the mixer floating. They had it on the chains. So the whole...
Yes.
like that, back and forth. Like you can push it.
Like a swing,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Swing.
Yeah, exactly. They had the whole thing set up like that.
Ave Maria. So they would tell me, Bacho, everybody said the same thing. Richie be so high and the thing would be swinging like a swing, but yet he would drop it and it would just be like magic. You go, no, bah!
That's it. Exactly.
Bah! Snapshot mixing. Bah! Right there, it's like.
Yeah, there was some amazing guys, those two guys to me. I slipped you, I learned from them, strictly from them. And then the actual mixing once it got into the mix happened because I was in George Rodriguez record pool. We had the Garden State record pool.
Oh, yeah, Garden State. Yes, George Rodriguez. Wow.
Yeah. We used to have parties, like once every couple of months we would have, pool parties, basically. And one time we decided to have it at Brothers 3, which was in Jersey. And the DJs there was Joey Colgero, Frankie G, and Mike McKnight. So whenever we had those kind of meetings in those clubs, those DJs, whoever the DJ was providing the music, pretty much. So they had their music in the background as we had our meetings first playing, and they had 2-minute mixes. I just writing 2 records together, just writing that thing. And it's like, on beat. It's like, and I was like, what the? So I had to go back to school and learn how to start mixing that way. You know what I mean? There's those long mixes.
The long overlays, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I learned that from those guys. Those guys
So,
were like that.
When you talk about Garden State Record Pool,
yeah.
What year was that about? Do you remember?
Well, it was early. I would play late 70s.
Because I was wondering, because I said 99 Prince Street happened already. Yeah. 99 Prince Street Record Pool happened. And I know that they did the initial meetings that were done in Hollywood's. Because I asked Tony Gio that, and he told me that as well. They did it at Hollywood's Mancuso. That's what the initial ones were.
Well, the thing about Mancuso and for the record, I mean, his record pool was we tried to join, but they wouldn't let us.
Why? What did they say to you? Why?
We didn't play in the club. You know, we were like mobile jocks. So they were like, no, sorry. No. Couldn't do it.
Sorry, can't do it.
So then eventually, before that, there was actually another pool started because of the fact that a lot of people could not join Mancuso's. I forgot the guy's name, but he started Garden State Record Pool in New Jersey. I'm sorry, call it NJADD. It was called. New Jersey
Discoteque DJs.
Exactly. We were able to join that one. That one we joined. And we used to go, I think it was to Asbury Park and get music, you know, once a month we would just go down there and grab our music.
Damn. Wow. And
then after that, you know, I joined George's Record Pool, of course. But I mean, those were my teachers, you know, between Richie, what's his name? Richie Kaczor, Tom Savarese.
Oh, Tom is another great mixer.
Yeah, Tom Savarese, exactly. Joey C, Frankie G, and Mike McKnight, those were the maestros.
Now, mind you, everyone, listen to me carefully. Get your pen and paper out. When we talk about Tom Savarese, he's talking about 12 West as well. Mm-hmm. It's all pre-Paradise Garage. Garage not open yet. It's all pre of it. He's talking way before Garage began. He's talking like that's the kind of teachers. Tom Savarese was the #1 DJ in New York at that time. #1.
Yeah, and he won the Billboard Award, you know, for New York.
That's right. Yeah, I saw that Billboard because he used to have that Billboard Award wherever he went to play with his sign.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
exactly.
Let you know he won it, right? I won that award, bitch. You know.
That's it. You know, it's funny because the last time they held those was in 1980. That's the last time they held them, and I won it for Jersey.
Right. Yes, congratulations.
I won it for New York, and it was between Larry and T. Scott for New York. And Larry won out that one. Yep, I remember.
Good old Tyrone Scott. He was Tyrone. T. Scott. Oh my God, great guy. Anyway, back to now your timeline. So you're okay. This is the question I have for you, bro. When you first heard that long overlay mix, what the hell did you do? You must have jumped up with. What the hell are you doing, right? Come on.
Yeah, I was like, wow. I said,
what is this
going on here? Yeah, I was like, wow, these guys can play. I mean, they're holding that for a long time, you know, and they were on the money. It was, you know, these are turntables, records that are live drummers. You know what I mean? It wasn't like now, all drum machine. No, these are live drummers. And these guys are riding it like, you know, smooth.
No sync button.
Yep. No sync button. None of that. Exactly. That's right.
Back to square.
Yeah, I got so good at it. I mean, you heard the story from Camacho. I got so good at it that when I was at Doc's, I would do the long mixes, mind you. This is what I would do. I put the 2 records on. I would do the long mixes, and I knew my records so well in and out. I would go to the pinball machine, let the records mixing, go play pinball, right? And then I'd be playing, and then when I hear that it may drop down, it's going to like sort of like might end up dragging. I would tell them to hold my ball, you know, hold my pin here.
Go back
to the DJ booth.
Yes.
Get them back lined up and go back and do that. And I used to do that all the time. Camacho was like, how can you do that?
Camacho screamed at me, yo, you never heard nobody do that shit. Like Hippie. Hippie was unbelievable, man. You don't know. Yo, man, he killed it. I could hear him saying it, screaming at us in New York. Bro, Hippie was the only one I knew that did that shit. Nobody else do that. I went, I know. That's a true story, everybody. Hippie was known, synonymous amongst the Jersey cats. That don't you ever talk about Hippie, man. Hippie, just like that. So, because we had our favorites in New York, we were like, "Yo, man, T. Scott, no, man, you never heard anybody hold that record. The guy would go to the toilet, come back, record still locking."
Yeah, it was funny. It was funny, and it's funny because when I heard those guys, like you said, all my teachers and stuff, I wanted to create my own style. So what we had that we didn't have at the time was we got our crossover mixer. So what happened was when we got the crossover, the bass, treble, mids, and the treble.
You mean the crossover? You mean the crossover?
Yeah, exactly. Three-way
RLA.
Yeah, exactly.
Three-way.
Correct.
Three-way crossover. Because I'm saying crossover mixer. I'm like, no, not that time.
No.
It would just be the crossover.
Three-way, that's what I mean. But remember, you're playing with the button, so it's sort of like you're mixing the song live. You know what I mean? You drop off the bass, that kind of stuff. That's what I meant. So when we first got that, the first time I heard those that I saw the crossover and saw it was at Starship Discovery, and it was Rosner that did the sound of Starship Discovery. So when we first opened, we were there, and I looked at the DJ booth, which was in the middle of the dance floor, sort of in bubbles. It was surrounded by glass bubbles, and the DJ like suddenly drops out the bass and stuff, and I'm like, "What's going on here?" And it's just the highs and the mids playing, and then he brings in the bass, boom, and I was like, "Oh my God, this is unbelievable!" So when I first saw those, I said, "You know what? I can create a new style of mixing with that." So what I did was when we got our first crossover and we opened the club, all I did was experiment mixing with just the bass. So I would take out the highs and the mids, and all you hear is boom, 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 and I'm mixing another record underneath that. And then by the time I'm finished the mix, I'll bring in the mids and the highs. The audience was like, "Oh my God, it's over with." You know what I mean? And I would do it with the highs, I would do it with the bottoms. And then that became Jersey style. Like every jock in Jersey was doing that. You know what I mean? And that's when Camacho and Naeem first started DJing, that was their style. They would do crossover mixing. You know what I mean? And that's what brought them attention.
So it really, technically, what they were doing was soaking you in, watching the dance floor, and then going home or going to their spots and emulating parts of what you're doing and implementing them into their sound.
Exactly.
Now, in New York, at the same time, Nicky Siano was doing that at Gallery. Because he was doing it. He was crazy with the crossover, working because Alex put that crossover in that club.
Right, exactly. But there was a difference because Naeem used to go to both. So
right, Naeem would go to Gallery.
He would go to the Gallery and he would go to Mines. So that's why I asked him, because I knew that he would go to the Gallery. So I'm like, Naeem, is anybody doing this? Like just doing the bass mixes? He said, nobody's doing it. He said, people play with the crossover just like they did at the Starship Discovery, but they don't do a mix with just the tweeters.
Now,
just the bass.
At Starship, was that Joey Bonifiglio? Who was playing there at that time?
I'm not sure. I don't remember the name of the DJ that was there at the time. You know what? I was just into the sound system. It was so amazing. I was like,
I heard everybody said to me, and the booth was out of control.
Oh yeah, it was.
The booth was out of control in that club.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. Now I don't know. Maybe people, like you said, maybe they were doing it in New York, but from what I heard from Naeem and them and stuff, they said he wasn't doing that.
Joey Palminteri.
He was working a crossover, just like Larry works a crossover, but Larry would never just do a mix with just the tweeters or just the bass. You know what I mean?
No, he would do the mix, do the transition, and then he would work the record.
Crossover, exactly. He would work.
You're doing it while you're actually in transition.
Right, exactly. Yeah, exactly. My reason why I did it the way I did was because magic was my hobby. So in magic, you're always looking for that surprise element, basically.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, magic was my
I didn't know that. I never knew you were a magician.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you go watch my first video with You're Gonna Miss Me, you're gonna see me do a card trick right in the middle of it.
Yeah. I think I remember. I thought that was part of the show. I didn't think that was anything about magic, to be honest.
So and I always like to keep secrets because that's part of you're as a magician, you're taught never to give away the secret. So to me, it was my way of surprising the audience. You know what I mean? It was like, I'm gonna do just the bass and bring the other bass and I would match them up pretty good, and they don't know what's going on. They're just hearing the boom, boom, boom. But once I brought that crossover up, with the mid and the highs, and the other song is already on, they would just blow up. They were like, oh my God, they were ready for it. So that created that style for me. Like I said, that's what I try to do different from everybody else in doing this stuff in New York. But like you say, what I was doing with Naeem and Camacho was what Nicky was doing with Larry and Frankie, because they used to hang out and watch Nicky Ciano.
That's right.
He was their teacher. He's the one that taught them. You know what I mean? The same thing, same exact thing. Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Keep going. Keep going. I mean, I know for a fact how smooth this man plays. Many nights I heard him play, so I can't say it's not true.
Yeah.
Very true. Smooth. Real smooth. I don't remember feeling like that double beating was ever happening in your set.
Right.
You would seamlessly just do your, long night, play through one record to another. But it's incredible.
It's funny because of all the different styles that came up. I'm always looking for that different thing to bring into it. You know what I mean? And the element now is, more than anything is that, the Native Instruments remix. And like I told you now, DJ Pro has got using Deezer. Deezer created a software where it allows you to separate the vocals and acapella. Bless you. Which is what I wanted to do with my program Prophonics, was basically separate the vocals from the music, and then like that you can use it. So a lot of people are using that, and I think that's the next step. Is it hasn't really caught on yet as much, but I think working in the middle of the mix and being able to just drop it down to just the acapella, mind you, and because now everything is synced up, now you just drop it to just the acapella, and you got the other track playing underneath. They're queued up perfectly. They should be in sync, like they were made together, pretty much. You know what I mean? And that's the next step. You don't have to use the sync button at all. It's just the fact that everything now is made with synchronization already built into the songs. So you should be able to mix smoothly, pretty much any song, in any kind of way. I think that's the next step. I don't know what's going to happen after that, but right now I think that's a next evolution to what we do, basically. Right.
Can somebody asking them repeat the name of the software again that you said? They said, "What's the name of the software?"
Native Instruments has Remix. They have a thing called Remix, and what it allows, you can actually download the software, and it allows you to put a song, have a song that you produced, and you can put the acapellas and the instrumental together, and it'll create one track with both of those in there playing as though it's a song. But you can, in the mix with their controllers, separate it. You can take down the instruments and just have the vocals playing, or you can take down the vocal and just have the instrumental playing. And now Deezer created a software where they allow you to separate regular records, stereo records. You don't have to pre-make it with acapella and instrumental. It's a regular song. It could be any song you have. And basically what it does, it separates the acapella and then some other instruments. They do like 4 instruments: bass, drums, keyboards, and other, they call it. So they got pretty much those 5. They separate it for you. It's not as good as the ones that come in separate originally, but it's workable. You can use it. And with some songs, it's really good. If you get the right songs, it's nice and clean. But that's the next level. And Deezer's using it. DJ Pro, which is the software, is using the Deezer software, because Deezer provided that for free for anyone to put into their software. So a bunch of companies are probably going to start using it. I wouldn't be surprised if, Serato starts using it and everybody else, because they put it up.
Yeah, that's all you need. That's all you need for it to catch on, and then everybody jumps on the bandwagon.
Exactly.
Let me just say this to everybody. I just want to compliment our man here. See how a first generation DJ is so hip? That's why he's called Hippie. On that note, Hippie, take a moment. Let me just say a couple of things, because I always do this around 30 minutes into our thing, and then we go on.